Welcome to Maximize Excellence, the podcast where leadership meets purpose, performance, and possibility. I'm Lori Harris, co-founder, partner, and principal consultant of Harris Whitesell Consulting. Each episode, I have the privilege of sitting down with distinguished executives, innovators, scholars, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders from around the world to explore one powerful question. How do you maximize excellence every day? And together we uncover the experiences, the decisions, habits, setbacks, and breakthroughs that have shaped extraordinary leaders. We'll discuss workforce solutions, leadership, organizational culture, human potential, innovation, resilience, and the principles that create lasting impact. Whether you lead a global enterprise, a growing business, a nonprofit organization, or you simply aspire to become your very best, you'll leave every conversation with the practical insights you can immediately apply to your own leadership journey. Thank you for joining us, and let's maximize excellence together. So today's guest is someone whose work has influenced leaders, organizations, and industries here in the U.S., here in southeastern North Carolina, and around the world. James Flock is a manufacturing leader, consultant, and workforce development advocate with a career dedicated to strengthening the industrial talent pipeline in southeastern North Carolina. As president of the Cape Fear Manufacturing Partnership, and Vice President of the North Carolina Association of Workforce Development Boards, and founder of JSF Industrial. He collaborates with industry, education, and community partners to expand access to high-quality technical training and improving industrial efficiency. James has successfully developed and delivered advanced manufacturing curricula in the areas such as CNC aerospace and nuclear production technologies, GD&T, and metrology for both adult learners and youth programs. He has run aerospace manufacturing facilities in New York and North Carolina and currently teaches at Cape Fear Community College and Brunswick Community College. This is where he is known for creating engaging, hands-on learning environments that prepare students for careers in aerospace and precision manufacturing. With a proven record of organizational leadership, including past services as chairman of the Cape Fear Workforce Development Board, James brings a strategic perspective to workforce initiatives focused on inclusion, innovation, and regional economic growth. His work reflects a strong belief that manufacturing careers can be transformative, offer meaningful opportunities for families and communities across the region. And you can believe I am delighted to welcome Mr. James Flock. Thank you for joining us on Maximize Excellence, Jim. May I call you Jim?
Please do.
Great.
Thank you for having me, Lori. I'm very excited to be here. We've got a lot going on in the Cape Fear area, and I think that we have a couple of models for people that will really resonate with them and give them some guidance on maybe some activities that they can take part in to improve their workforce and their area. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm very excited. Thank you again.
Excellent. Well, I've got goosebumps, Jim, so that tells me something. This is good stuff. So as I'm, we're going to talk about building excellence through collaboration today, how industry, workforce, and leadership create stronger communities. And when we invest in people and align organizations around a common purpose, manufacturers become stronger, workers have better careers, and communities prosper. So my first question for you, Jim, is all about you. You have spent decades in manufacturing, quality systems, and workforce development. So looking back and that reflection, what experience most shaped your leadership philosophy and the excellence that you demonstrate and exhibit today.
Well, first of all, Lori, thank you. You really flatter me with listing all those qualifications and talking about what we've been done and been doing. But really, I've been very fortunate. I spent nearly 5 years, 5 decades in manufacturing, many years in quality systems, and recently in consulting and workforce development. I was younger. I thought leadership was just about having the right answers, being able to tell people this is how we're going to do it. It's all technical in manufacturing. But I found too, manufacturing really has a way of humbling you. Machine doesn't really care about my opinion. The quality systems that we work in, they don't reward good intentions. Your process isn't working, the results are going to tell you, right? I mean, over time, I realized the same thing is true about leadership. I've learned, I think, that leadership really begins when I'm willing to let my experiences reshape my assumptions and let things evolve. Earlier in my career, like I mentioned, I thought workplace problems had simple technical explanations. But working with employers, educators, government, people from every background, I really discovered that it's usually a lot more complex than it first appears, right? Today, I want to approach my leadership principles with curiosity. I want people to listen. I want people to learn. Don't make decisions too early. Don't rush into any judgment. Analyze the situation. Purpose of leadership really is not to make you point, dictate policy, win an argument, or anything like that. It's help people see things more clearly and give them the tools and resources necessary to succeed in what their job. And with that, excellence will follow naturally, I think, from that mindset. We're building a precision part. We're making a workforce, developing a workforce, leading any kind of organization. The excellence and everything that comes from that comes from listening carefully, being willing to learn continuously, and improving the process. One of the things in manufacturing that we talk about is continual improvement. That's going to be one of the themes of our conversation today, I think.
I love your philosophy of humility and curiosity and support, and especially the philosophy of care, the meaning of care, and the meaning of how caring and leadership is the first priority. And so, definitely, I think this conversation is just going to continue to get richer and richer as we move along here.
I agree.
So, yeah, I also want to ask you specifically about the Cape Fear Manufacturing Partnership. So, the Cape Fear Manufacturing Partnership has become a highly respected example of employer led sector partnerships. What makes this model work, and why do you believe it has relevance beyond Southeastern North Carolina? What's happening with this organization, Jim? This is great stuff.
Your question, Lori, has the key phrase employer led.
Yes.
Okay. The manufacturing partnership was driven by and convened by originally the Cape Fear Workforce Development Board. We're going to talk a lot about workforce development boards as we go on here because they play a large part in what we're doing. But it's evolved into something. In order to get what we need out of it, it has to be driven by us. It doesn't need to be driven or shouldn't be driven by outside agencies. Too often, workforce development is a real catchy term these days. It's very trendy. Everybody has their hands in it, right? But too often it starts by some agency asking a government, education partner, nonprofit what they think employers need. What we've done is turn that around. We got together, we sat around the table and we said, what do we need? And now we're coming, instead of having somebody come from a community college and knock on my door and say, hey, Jim, I have this great program for your people over there. I think it'd be really beneficial for you. How many people can we sign up? We're going to them and saying, this is what we need. This is the curriculum we want. These are the training materials and resources that we need. This is the stuff that we see going forward that companies need. So we really turn that model around, and I think that's one of the key things. It changes the entire conversation. Instead of organizations competing for attention, funding, we all start working towards the same outcome because we've identified, the employers I'm talking about have identified what matters most. Policymakers or someone sitting behind an office, they have an idea, but the people doing the actual work, the people in the offices, the people on the shop floor out there are the ones who are really doing it. They're the ones who know what it really needs. And what makes this model work is too is it's built on relationships and trust. We're not holding one meeting and expecting collaboration. We've been working on this for 5 years now, over 5 years. We have to create an environment where competitors are willing to sit around the same table, share some ideas, and work together because we recognize the same challenges, like developing talent are bigger than any one company. That's where the basis for the CFMP lies, and that's where the importance of the CFMP lies. I believe this model has relevance well beyond the area that we're in right now, too. These challenges aren't unique to us, right? Manufacturers everywhere struggling to retain talent, to find those skilled workers, and to keep them in the building, first of all, adapt to new evolving technologies, and build stronger talent pipelines. The details differ a little bit from one region to another, but the principle is the same. It's universal. Employers lead, partners align around the employer's needs. We get better outcomes. Everybody than when everybody works independently. What I hope is that what we've learned here in forming the manufacturing partnership, the successes we've had, the obstacles that we faced, can contribute to similar employer-led initiatives across the state of North Carolina and even beyond that.
I couldn't agree more. Human capability is the key right now to success and sustainability in organizational effectiveness and profitability and sustainability. One thing you mentioned was, and that I can relate to specifically, is how people behave in the workplace versus the idealness of what leaders want or policymakers want and how it really happens. The culture, right? So when we think about the culture, not the engagement, not the climate, but the true aspect of culture and helping people truly understand their how they fit into that and what that role really does mean for them in applying their strengths and their talents and their technical expertise as well as their leadership capability. It's absolutely fascinating right now. The ecosystem is almost demanding that human capability be in the forefront. And I couldn't be more excited these days. Yeah, definitely. I know that human resources is on the, it's being disrupted. It has been for the last 10 years in my work. We're disrupting it. And no longer is it just a policy making protector of the organization like it was in the industrial age. And then, aligning people in a way that supported that in the efficiency of that. Now we're really looking at effectiveness as well and capability and alignment of capability. And that changes the dynamic. Absolutely. And it forces us to think and be very pioneering in those aspects of where there's legal matters that really truly might belong in legal, and where there are financial matters, finance should really truly take the lead on those. And where there are people matters, that's where the talent management and that's where the human capital and human capability truly lie. So I'm very, very excited to hear you talk about this. Definitely.
I think that you mentioned having different scopes and having the financial people handle the financial stuff and compliance people handle that.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of overlap in that as well, too,
Yeah.
because all organizations are a compilation of all their different parts, and all those parts have to move together. When
Yes. It's very supportive and it's very collaborative, and that innovation and that creativity, that collaborative exercise of behavior is key and core to that. But I do feel the functionality, absolutely. And the science in this as well shows that there is excellence in that, but we truly do still need to have that supportive, that collaboration, and that teaming of all of these dynamics that go on because of human behavior in the workplace, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
everybody. You get somebody like me. I've managed medium, small size companies, and I'll get up there during a company meeting and say, "Yeah, we're all in this together," and everything. And some people will stand there and they'll buy into it and they'll run through a brick wall for me. And other people will forget my name when they're walking out to the car when in the parking lot. Jim who? What? What?
That's right.
Everybody has their own agenda. And we need to be able to adapt to that to be able to get the most out of people
I
and to
love
let
it.
them see the value in what they're doing. I think engagement is very important. I also think that empowering people to do their jobs is very important. When we talk about things like like you mentioned, the financial people doing their things. I want to manage my business. I want to manage my people. I want to do the engineering end of things because those are my strengths. I want to leave the things that I'm not really good at to the experts, so to speak. And this is part of that whole team mentality. We're not in it together. And this is actually speaks back to what we do in the manufacturing partnership because it's not one person sitting in a silo working and pounding their head against their keyboard saying, how am I going to get these parts out the door? I've got New York, I've got a phone call, somebody bugging me about this, we need status on this, and it really can become overwhelming at times. But when you start to build that teamwork framework and you get everybody together pulling in the same direction, it makes it a little bit easy.
It sure does. All right, I want to ask you this. Many people don't fully understand the role of workforce boards and NC Works. How do organizations like Cape Fear Workforce Development Board and NC Works system help manufacturers grow while creating opportunities for individuals and communities?
Well, Lori, I've lived this from multiple perspectives, right? I mean, this has been part of the conversation. I've been an employer, was chairman of the workforce board. I'm still a current member, vice president of the State Association of Workforce Boards, an educator, president of CFMP, working on the shop floor. I've done every job in the shop from cleaning the bathrooms on up to running the facility.
Uh-huh.
So I think I have a rather unique perspective and a combination of experiences that a lot of people don't necessarily have. And from that, I think one of the biggest misconceptions people assume workforce boards are simply job placement agencies. And they help people find employment, but their role's a lot broader than that. I like to say, and speaking with some of my friends in the workforce board, the staff there, they refer to themselves as conveners. An organization like the Association of Workforce Boards, Cape Fear Workforce, the NC Work System, they're really economic development partners. Their mission is to help businesses find and develop talent they need to grow, helping individuals build careers that can support themselves and families at the same time. We're trying to address both ends of the spectrum. If you're talking about manufacturers or business in general, really, that means connecting employers with training resources, things like incumbent worker training grants, work experience programs, OJT programs, apprenticeships, customized workforce solutions for individual companies, providing labor market information, and forming partnerships with providers and community colleges and educators. It means bringing together these organizations that might otherwise be working independently. That's what I mean when I talk about the workforce board being conveners. If you talk about the individual levels, people, just the average Joe on the street, it's about more than finding just the next job. We want to create career pathways. We want to help someone gain new skills, earn industry recognized credentials, and continue advancing through their careers. Uh, when I've worked over the years, I think the strongest communities are the ones where you see employers, educators, and organizations like workforce boards, economic developments, government, local government, chambers of commerce, when they recognize that they're part of the same ecosystem and when they pull together. When you have organizations that engage in, for lack of a better term, let's call it empire building and self promotion, is, I think, where you start to get things going south on. You've seen just a few of the comments that I made. I'm big on team making. I'm big on team building. I'm big on support. I think that's a big part of it,
Yes, yeah.
and that just doesn't apply to an individual company. That applies to things that we're doing on the greater public front, with stuff such as the workforce board and the manufacturing partnership. That's why MC Works is so important. We're not simply just filling jobs, but we're helping to build tomorrow's workforce, and we're doing that in conjunction with companies and organizations across the region.
And I commend you, Jim. I've known you now for a little over a year. And I will say from afar and also collaboratively, I see you connecting. I see you communicating. I see you collaborating on a daily basis. I mean, you are visible. You are ex- exhibiting and demonstrating exactly what you're speaking, and it's very visible. So I commend you for your hard work. And
Thank you.
no, I think about philosophy in general, and hard work, when it's good work, pays off. And it definitely creates lasting positive impacts. So keep up the good hard work. How's that?
Well, it's not just me. It's not just me. I
Well,
might have a partner, but I'm part of a much larger team. Like I
you
said,
are.
the
You
things that
are.
we're doing with the manufacturing partnership
Yes. Yes, it's
is,
really
is
making a difference, not just in our region. And I know with Lynn and I, we work all over North Carolina, as well as the United States and around the world. And we've got that tens of thousands of followers, and people are paying attention when we talk about workforce, and if we happen to mention you guys in any way. So I'm very excited about this. Again, this conversation is very powerful, and it's going to definitely enlighten and help others, definitely. And I
thank
think,
you.
yeah, I think it's going to drive some questions and attention as well. I also want to say this: one of your strengths has been bringing together manufacturers, educators, workforce professionals, and economic developers, and organizations like mine that do the leadership development work, etc. Um, Often there's different priorities amongst us. And what lessons from the Cape Fear Manufacturing Partnership could benefit manufacturers in this region or other regions of North Carolina?
Well, that's been one of the biggest things that we've had to deal with. I mentioned before pulling competitors together around the table.
Yeah,
Um, I guess the biggest lesson really is collaboration just doesn't happen because we signed an MOU with a bunch of organizations sitting around the table. How does it really happen when you're talking about something that we're trying to build here? It happens because we built trust. When we started the manufacturing partnership, we were dealing with manufacturers, a bunch of us sitting around on a table. Once we finally got our heads together and developed a mission, then we started bringing in workforce professionals, educators, economic partners, some government agencies, and everybody has different priorities, different metrics, ways of measuring their successes. I mean, you look at it from the manufacturing standpoint alone. I was sitting at the table, and it really, at the first meetings, it was just somebody, the business engagement manager from the workforce board, who had probably grown tired of listening to me complain. I'm being nice, really, about losing people to larger companies with more resources. But I wasn't the only one, I guess, because she pulled a few of us together. I'm from aerospace manufacturing. We
right,
had a gentleman there making guitar part amplifiers, another company that made barbecue grills, another one was a boat manufacturer. We had a wide variety of businesses. We all made something. That was one thing we had in common.
right.
And during our conversations together, our first conversations, we realized we had a lot of the same pain points. What did I mention before? Traction, retention of talent, right? Um, One of the biggest things we spoke about, and I wasn't really going to talk about this, but I think it's an important part of the conversation. I'm 66 years old. From the time I was a little kid in school, I heard stay in school, stay in school, stay in school. We are becoming a service economy in the United States. We're taking all those dirty, dangerous, low paying manufacturing jobs, machine shop jobs, and we're going to send those overseas to these third world countries, so called. And we're going to become a service economy. Everybody's going to become a businessman, a doctor, a lawyer. Let's just kick back and let the money roll in. But
For the
the
hard life,
reality, I think, and this has been going on since the end of World War II, it's taken a long time to get to this. The reality of things is that manufacturing is a very different animal than it was 80, 50, 20 years ago, even. And these are things that we have to express to people. And that's one of those things that we talked about. That was one of the biggest challenges we faced. So we're trying to take a two-pronged approach: short term to address our needs, long term to address the future of manufacturing in this country, and to make people aware of the opportunity. And I think when we started during our conversations, we started listening to each other. We asked ourselves, what are our biggest challenges? We looked around the table and said, who can help us solve this? And that shift changed everything. Now, instead of having company organizations rather and providers promote their own programs, they're working together. They're working with us to share these. And I think that together we're starting to realize that relationships come before the programs. We can create all the committees we want, right? Strategic plans we want. But if the people don't trust each other, if we don't have that sense of commitment that we are, in some levels, all in this together, then that collaboration is not going to last. The trust has to be earned over time by consistently delivering value. Um, Regardless of what sector of the economy we're in, we're talking about the manufacturing partnership, which is technically called a sector partnership. But you can take this in healthcare, you can take this in hospitality, logistics, transportation, any one of these things, and recognize that when you pull competitors together around a common purpose and they identify their common pain points, that they speak with a much louder voice than they do individually. Nobody cares about Jim Flock running a 20-person machine shop on Mount Misery Road in Leland in the big scheme of things. The people who work there do, but do policymakers? But when Jim Flock and his company and Mojo Tone and Wilmington Grill and this company and that company all band together, then we speak with that louder voice. And I think that's really the important lesson to be learned here. I think every region in North Carolina is different, and I wouldn't recommend completely copying what we're doing on the manufacturing partnership, but I would recommend adopting the principles. Let employees lead, build trust among the partners, focused on those shared challenges, and create a culture and an agenda where everyone is pulling together and our success is measured by what we accomplish together.
And so through your JSF Industrial, you've helped companies improve quality systems, workforce development, and operational performance. What are the most common challenges manufacturers face today, and how do you help them overcome those challenges?
Well, one of the things I've learned, challenges are usually connected internally to a company, right? We talked about the different scopes that and the different operations that take place within any organizations. When we're internal, we tend to talk about things like quality, workforce, productivity, leadership, continuous improvement. In my field of work, continuous improvement is another one of those trendy catchphrases that gets thrown around all the time. In reality, they're all part of the same system, though, right? Today, manufacturers dealing with so many significant challenges. We've talked about finding talent. We've talked about retaining that talent. We've talked about boosting up that talent and making them what we need them to be. Technology is advancing so rapidly, right? What customers these days, they demand higher quality, they demand shorter lead times. There's downward pressure on pricing, despite what you may see in the supermarket. People are trying to hold down cost. We need to be adaptable. We need to have greater flexibility than ever before. And at the same time, all our experienced employees are my age. They're retiring out of the workforce. They're taking decades of knowledge with them. And at JSF Industrial, we could offer right now, I could tell you I could offer a laundry list of solutions to address those. But I really want to talk about the approach instead. And what we do is we try to help companies step back and look at their entire system. Instead of treating individual symptoms piecemeal, if a quality problem is occurring, I don't just start by asking who's making the mistakes. What we look into is what in the process is allowing those mistakes to happen. Big part of dealing with things when something goes wrong in a machine shop, in a manufacturing facility, is corrective action. And corrective actions involves looking at what's going on, looking at the underlying causes, trying to find a root cause. But a big part of that too is finding out where that potential for that error or breakdown in the system can happen somewhere else in your systems. So
Right.
you're starting to look overall as a more holistic approach to the systems working together. And the same thing is really true in workforce development, because instead of asking why people don't want to work or why the system's not working or something, I'm trying to ask how we can build better training, form stronger partnerships, and create those environments where people can succeed. Sustainable improvements going to come from improving the systems, developing your people, building a culture of continuous learning and improvement. We focus on those things together, then the quality will improve, the productivity will improve, people become more engaged, they become more proficient at their jobs, and they're a hell of a lot more likely to stick around and be a happy employee and a productive employee. My role isn't really to tell companies what to do, it's to help them see the risk involved in what they're doing, the opportunities for improvement that they may not have recognized, and then to work alongside them to build some practical solutions that last.
I love that. Yeah, I love it. And then we get called to come in and do the work.
That's fine.
That's what happens. So you have trained everyone from new students, high school, young adults, those, and I call them future ready leaders, those emerging leaders, to those experienced machinists and manufacturing professionals. Is that true statement? You've kind
Yes.
of run the gamut there. What have you learned about developing talent? And why is investing in people and developing their capabilities, right? Both their technical and behavioral. Why is investing in people so important to organizational success?
Mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, I've spent a long time doing this. I've had a lot of privilege to work with people like you mentioned and watch them grow. Work with brand new students right now all the time. I've had students in my class at Brunswick Community College that 3 months ago didn't even know what a blueprint or a micrometer was, and now they're getting fairly proficient at it. They're not ready to run their own shop, but they're getting there. Really had the opportunity to work with experienced machinists looking to expand their roles, supervisors trying to move into leadership roles, and then companies trying to build stronger teams too. So again, it runs the gamut everywhere along the spectrum there. And I've learned that people are really a lot more capable of, they're capable of far more than we sometimes give them credit for or sometimes expect if they're given the opportunity, if they're given the resources, the right guidance, and to some levels, the confidence. Right? In my career, and I think I mentioned this earlier too, I thought it was just as simple as saying, this is what we do. You push this button, you push that button, you measure this, and then you load the next part and you go on. Okay, you come and bother me when something goes wrong and breaks down. But I've learned really over the years, the better approach is kind of helping people understand why we do it. When people understand what they're doing, the deeper reasons for it, they really become better problem solvers, right? We're not just looking for an operator or somebody who's going to push a button or just sit there and type away at a keyboard every day. But we find people that can analyze things. They bring a deeper level of understanding to their job. They become more proficient and efficient at it. And when you invest in people, it's not just the right thing to do, too. It's good business. I don't know why companies don't recognize this often enough. Machines are important. Software is important. The technology is important. We're not going anywhere and we're not advancing as a manufacturing community in this country. Forget about just Northeastern Carolina. I'm talking about the entire country, unless we invest in those things. But they're only as effective as the people using them, right?
Hmm.
When we develop our people and create stronger cultures, and then we're more adapt to change. We can be more flexible. We can consistently perform at a higher level. I think that's one of the biggest lessons manufacturing's taught me. Really, the best organizations that I've worked with, they don't just build great products, they build great people. And then those people build those great.
It's the great adage of the meaning of life. Viktor Frankl, right? If we've all heard Viktor Frankl, it's that meaning of life and being able to have a purpose and to apply ourselves and to have that self-awareness and to have that uh, humility and that discipline to go out and do something that's meaningful to me. And and I know that everyone I talk to that's in manufacturing, they love to work with their hands. They love the critical thinking. They love the the creativity and the innovation, and many of them are, and many of my friends that are in manufacturing are artists of some sort. When they go home and disappear, they build things and they design things and they create art, and many are musicians, like you were talking about earlier when you had the guitar building company. It is fascinating to me that when and I'm going to keep using the term human capability. Human capability is so broad and deep and wide. And when leaders begin to open themselves up to connecting to that, and also supporting that and engaging in that, to the sense that they can absolutely better align talent to these opportunities in the organization. And people go, I mean, first of all, they get up in the morning and put their feet on the floor going, dang, you know what? I got some really hard things to do today at work. They're challenging, but man, I'm excited about going to work today. I kind of am excited about getting in there and getting the job done. And then they come home and go, phew, that was a big day today. And, but I'm really glad because we did something that was really good. And it is of high quality, and we did it together. There were a lot of people involved. So hearing people change their dynamic of the way they talk about their work is truly rewarding in all ways. And I
It
think,
really is. I mean, you get a chance to see people grow. Let me tell you a little story. A few years
yeah,
back, a company I used to work for, we were making a prototype of a hydraulic cylinder. And it was this big steel forging about the size of maybe your dining room table. It weighed about 600 pounds, had a lot of technically demanding features, fancy contours, holes that intersected weird angles and things like that. Kind of a machinist's nightmare. And we were plugging along, and it's taken a little longer than we should have, to be quite honest with you. And we had some pressure, we had some deadlines. And then one morning, I get a call from my boss up in New York, and he says, "We need these parts. We need these parts today. How are you? We got one last cut to do on this. We're almost there. I'm trying to figure out how to do this." And we were having hit a technical roadblock. And he said, "Well, figure it out, because we're sending a courier down and they'll be there tonight to pick up the part." So I'm beating my head against the table, and all of a sudden, I had a brainstorm. I said, "I think we can do this." I went outside, we looked at the part, talked to one of my kids that I had working there. Somebody that was helping me on it. Everybody else was busy in the shop, so this was kind of on me and him. And I told this young man, I said, "Let's load this up in the machine over here. This is what you're going to do. I want you to set the job up like that." I went inside, banged out a quick program, and we started proving it out. 5 o'clock that afternoon, we're starting to cut on the part. And somebody comes running up to me and say, "Hey, the courier's over here." And I said, "Well, he's going to be here for a few hours." And we got the part done, and we took it off the machine. He's like, "Oh God, hurry up. Let's put it in the box and everything." I said, "Stop, hold on 1 second. Take a look at this part." Now, I described very vaguely what this part is all about. And I said, "Look at what we just made, what we just finished, and we're going to be shipping up there. The complexity of this part, there aren't 100 people in the entire world that can do this from start to finish. Design it, engineer it, write the programs, do the tooling, cut the part and everything. And now you're one of those people." And you just see this kid's face light up, and he recognized what he was doing, the skills he was learning, these things like that. And it really resonated with him, that to this day, I believe that he's still doing that. He's moved on to bigger and better things since we worked together. But that was just one of those things that when I walked away, I went home that night. I said, "You know what? We made a good part. We made a difficult part,
mm,
and I made a good person and a leader today."
I love it. Absolutely love that story. It's great. You need to tell that story when you go talk to your students next time. That's a great story. That is
Thank
a
you.
great story. Love that story. And and I do believe what's interesting about this story is that it was a student. It was a young adult that you were working with. And so you mentioned this retire, a lot of the workforce is retiring out and their knowledge is exiting with it. This is where the old adage of, telling the storytelling piece to our younger generations is critical for our older leaders, and getting people to really build their skills in storytelling and seeing the value of these types of stories and engaging in these types of activities with our younger generations in the workplace. They're coming in with very high aspirations, thinking that they're going to get into leadership and make the big money right away. They're ready to go, and they think that they are absolutely capable of doing that. And I'm not saying that they're never going to be capable, but we've got to give them that nurture and that experience to do such. Your story shares all that, and it has meaning and all of that. Jim, I challenge you to write on that. Write that story, share it on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn uh, article. That's a
I'm going to
great,
make a note of that right now, Lori, and
I'm
I'm going to do
telling you, that's
exactly
a
that.
great story. And I will comment on it when you write it. So make sure you tag me because I will. This is great. I love it. I'm going to continue with a couple other questions. And
Sure, let's go.
you're triggering a lot in me too. I'm going, ooh, ooh, ooh. Anyway, I want to get through our interview today. Manufacturing has changed dramatically over the past several decades. And I'm going to hold that space right there. Jim, I want to share with you, I grew up, my father worked for one of the largest aerospace aeronautic companies in the world. He worked probably 35 years, and he started from the bottom and worked his way into leadership. And as a tool license, he started as a tool license, and like, the beautiful thing was back then there were no, take your daughter to work day or any of that, but he did. He used to take me to work, and I got to sit in the SR-71. I got to sit in the space shuttle. I got to sit in the U-2. There were so many planes and so many spaceships that I got to touch and feel and engage in and be a part of, and some of these were top secret, and being able to go in and meet the people and see them work. You would have thought that I would have gone into aerospace and space technology and work in that industry. I didn't, but I have a huge respect. I will say that in the work that I do, I've gotten to work with NASA and some of the others. So very, very, very still connected to this. And when we think about manufacturing, and even back then, we started to see some robotics put into play in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. There were some technologies that were put into play as well. So, what excites you most about the future of manufacturing in North Carolina, the Eastern area, even if you want to get down to our region? And what opportunities do you see on the horizon?
You mentioned your dad taking you to work. I'm a little jealous. That sounds really cool
It
to
was,
be able to experience all that stuff. I just make the parts and I never get to see the whole thing put together like that. But
oh
that's so
man.
awesome. And,
You
you
got to
know,
go visit these sites and see these babies. It's amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
couple of years ago, we went up to Washington to do a lobbying effort for a contract with the Department of Defense that we were involved in. And I got to fly in a helicopter simulator, which I crashed after about 40 seconds, I think. It was still
It's
a
not,
lot of fun, and it was
not as
very
easy
cool.
as it seems.
No, it's not. It was difficult. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. Do not put me behind the wheel of a plane, okay? That's all I can tell you. You mentioned something else too, your dad taking you to work, but that's how I evolved in this. I told you I've been doing this for many, many decades.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old, my father ran a machine shop in Brooklyn. And when I was 5 years old, he would bring me into that shop on a Saturday afternoon, and that was kind of his idea of babysitting and stuff. Another quick story, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go for it. This is
He,
great.
he had a couple of what they call the secondary department, just doing finishing touches on parts, drilling little holes to complete an item and everything. So one Saturday, he brings me over to one of the women that works for him, and he was busy. I guess he had some things going on. And they had this big box of brass pieces, and I was supposed to take a brass piece, put it on this thing, drill a hole in it, put it in another box. He tells me I'll give you a quarter for every part you do. This was in 1965 or 1966. And he's thinking, Kid's going to do two, three, four pieces. I'm going to pay him $1 and stuff like that. Keep him quiet, and he's going to hopefully not get his fingers cut off from playing around in the machine. But I got into it, and he got sidetracked. He comes back later on, and I had made over 600 pieces
My
in the
gosh.
course of the morning. I am still waiting for that money.
Ching ching. I was gonna say you made a good buck that day.
I did. I was getting into it, and I was counting my money. I'm looking. I'm saying I'm going to get over $100 over here, and it didn't happen.
Oh man, what a letdown. Oh, but
You know,
how
so
exciting.
I am a big proponent of telling people to make sure that you get what you deserve when you're out there.
That's right.
Okay. But really, now to answer your question, that just illustrates to you that I've seen manufacturing change really dramatically over the course of my.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
gone from those manual machines that I was working on when I was a little kid, a teenager, et cetera, to CNC technology. We've gone from paper drawings to digital manufacturing. Now we're entering automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, all sorts of advanced manufacturing techniques. I tell my students now, I wish I had another 50 years to be able to do this. I can only imagine in my wildest fantasies what it's going to be like 20, 30, 40 years from now. What's really interesting to know is that despite all those technological changes and stuff, the one thing that hasn't changed, big part of our conversation for the last hour or so, what's it all about? Manufacturing is still fundamentally about people solving those problems, right?
Right.
And really, what excites me about North Carolina is that we have all the ingredients here in place to become one of the leading manufacturing centers in the world, not just across the country and stuff. We have an ecosystem with outstanding manufacturers, the strongest workforce development system in the country, one of the best community college systems in the country, university, worldwide acclaimed universities, economic development organizations, business and industry people, and a growing culture of collaboration because of organizations like the Manufacturing Partnership and the Workforce Development Board that start to pull all these things together. And we're no longer in our own little individual silos anymore, but we have the greater community to work together. And the opportunity really now is to start to connect those strengths a little more intentionally, I think. I believe the employer-led partnerships, and again, key word there, key phrase there is employer-led, supported by a workforce system, are a big part of that future because no single organization, no single company, no single person getting up there on their soapbox can really solve today's workforce challenges alone. We need to do it together. And something I'm going to give you that may be a little different point of view than what you hear because I hear all the time, oh, the kids today, they don't want to do anything. They expect things to roll in. And you mentioned before everybody wanting to rise to the top of the heap. To be honest here, I think sometimes we sell our kids a bill of goods, right? When you get somebody up there and says, you will all be leaders, right? Companies are built from the ground up. There's 20 people down there on the shop floor working, paying my salary when I'm strictly overhead. And there's one person in the office signing the paychecks, right? We kind of taper up. So it's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for the ones who apply themselves. It's going to be for the ones who work their hardest. And there are a lot of people out there like that. When I walk into a classroom today, or I visit a manufacturing facility, I see talented people of all ages, eager to learn, eager to contribute. And I think that one of our responsibilities is to create those pathways that allow them to succeed. When I hear somebody say, kids don't want to work, they don't have any respect for the system, they don't want to do anything. There's a famous American who said a few years back something along that exactly. I'm paraphrasing here, but they don't want to work. The kids listen to crazy music. They don't respect their elders. They just want to sit around and have fun all day. You know who that famous American was? Thomas Jefferson. This is over 200 years ago he said that. And I'll bet you Thomas Jefferson's grandfather and great grandfather said something similar about their kids, and
Mm,
that their grandparents said something similar about their kids. This is a common theme. This has been going on for hundreds of years.
mhm,
And I think that we always sell our youth short on a lot of
mhm,
fronts.
mhm.
And if you give them the opportunities, if you give them the guidance, they're going to succeed and they're going to be what we want and even better than that. One of the best things I've ever done professionally is something we've done for Cape Fear Manufacturing. in partnership with Cape Fear community colleges. I know I'm throwing a lot of Cape Fear this and Cape Fear that out there,
Uh-huh.
but we have this manufacturing summer camp. It's a manufacturing themed summer camp for kids in middle school that exposes them to design activities, manufacturing techniques, entrepreneurship. They build a model, they design a product, they build a business model over the course of a week. And at the end of that week, they give a presentation, kind of like Shark Tank style. Everybody's seen that TV show.
Uh-huh.
To me and some of my colleagues on the manufacturing partnership, and we select a winner. We have a manufacturing partnership meeting coming up at the end of August that I hope you're going to be at.
I got it on my.
And we're going to have the two winners from this year's competition give a presentation. They're going to give their presentation. I was blown away. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'll let people see that for themselves. But that's the future of manufacturing. And that's what's got me excited. We continue investing in people like that. We strengthen these partnerships. We help our manufacturers maintain their competitive edge. North Carolina has the opportunity not just to really participate in the future of manufacturing, but to be cutting edge, to be the leader.
And Jim, this is a great time for me to show a little bit of gratitude to you as well. Harris Whitesell Consulting, we are the chair, I'm the chair of an event called the Wilmington Young Enterprising Women. And we hold a mentor forum every year, and it grew very fast. Our first year was 3 years ago, and we started with 40 girls and 40 mentors. And in our third year, we have grown to over 200 girls and 125 mentors. And we're expecting this year to be at 300 girls, if not more, and probably about 150 mentors. And so we're also looking at it in the future because we got future ideas going on. And how do we do this for all the young gentlemen out there as well in high school? This is a high school program that we partner with all three counties, Brunswick, Pender, and New Hanover County schools, both public and private. And we've got a growth strategy in place. I want to say, and you know about this, but I do want to say thank you. The Cape Fear Manufacturing Partnership has been a collaborator and a communicator for our program in finding mentors and also getting the word out to these organizations to be involved. It is a phenomenal opportunity. And I will tell you, while we're in the room and with all these mentors, and many of them, by the way, are manufacturing plants. We've got Corning, we've got pharmaceutical there, we've got GE, we've got them all there. And these youth are engaged, they are highly curious, and they are already planning from ninth grade through 12th grade. They are already beginning to look at, so again, do not underestimate the power of these youthful minds and these youthful hearts, because they are already looking at how to align not only what education is needed, but where do they really get excited about doing things in life. And so we're looking at, science and technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics in particular, and entrepreneurship. So that kind of opens up the whole other bucket, right? Of just
Yes.
about anything. Yeah, and I will tell you, I walk out of there inspired. I walk out of there thinking, man, I got to up my game every year. It's time. So when you talk about the future of manufacturing and our youth, our young adults being such a big part of that, I agree with you 100%.
It's It does excite me, and I kind of find it kind of funny because the kids I talk to, I look at and I think back, and I don't know how you were when you were, grade school or a teenager or anything like that, but I was something of an idiot. I was immature. Once in a while I'll sit there and I'll tell people I'm in my 60s and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And the kids today, they have it together so much more than we did, or at least I did. And I think that's part of why we have the potential to do what
Yeah.
we're going to do, not what we can do, what we're going to.
Okay, so looking ahead 10 years, let's go forward. Let's go 10 years ahead. What would an ideal manufacturing support network look like across North Carolina? What role should employer led partnerships play in that future?
Uh, 5 to 10 years from now, I've thought about this a little bit. I really hope every region in North Carolina has a strong employer-led partnership, specifically regarding manufacturing, because to me that's my sweet spot. But like I said earlier, this can apply anywhere. I don't think the goal is really to create one statewide organization that tells everyone what to do, some model to follow. Every region's got different employers, different workforce needs, different economic activity opportunities, rather. What we need is a common philosophy, a loose affiliation, not a common blueprint. My ideal support network, we're going to have manufacturers defining workforce priorities. We're going to have workforce development boards, community colleges, K 12, universities, economic developers, business and industry development, chambers of commerce, all aligning their efforts around those priorities. Instead of these organizations working in parallel, side by side by side, we're all going to be working together. This is a lot stronger than this, right?
Yes.
Technology is continuing to change, right? Workforce needs are always going to evolve, but the collaboration should be a standard part of our framework and our infrastructure. It's not something we build only when there's a crisis, but something that we live and breathe and work on together. When you have those employer led sector partnerships and they form together and they tie together, I think that's the mechanism that makes all this stuff possible. They create that place where industry can speak with one voice, partners can coordinate their efforts in a way that benefits everyone. We can build that kind of network across North Carolina. We're not only strengthening manufacturing, we're going to strengthen every community across North Carolina. We're going to expand opportunities for all those individuals. We're going to make our state competitive for generations to come. It's not, the goal isn't to replicate the manufacturing partnership, it's to replicate the process. One thing I want to keep in mind here, we're talking manufacturing is the setting that we're talking about. Workforce development is our application, right? But these things that we're talking about, listening, building trust, aligning around that shared purpose, improving the systems, investing in the people, they apply just as well to healthcare. They apply to hospitality, education, nonprofits, economic development, even government to a certain extent, right? When employees lead and everybody aligns, people are given opportunities to succeed. Those opportunities become much more abundant and everybody wins.
So you've worked in industry, consulting, education, nonprofit, and you've held leadership in all of that. How has serving in those different roles changed your perspective on leadership and serving others?
Mentioned all my different perspectives before.
Yeah.
Been on the shop floor, consultant. I like to think I'm teaching the next generation of machinists.
Uh-huh.
I probably believed earlier that people, if you work simple, and we talked about hard work before, right? And that is one of the pathways to success. And it's almost a demand, number one on there. But that's not just simple and simply the answer, right? Experience really has taught me that things are a lot more complicated than that. Since I've come down to North Carolina, working so closely with a lot of these different organizations, people from every walk of life. I work with people who didn't have a fourth grade education to PhDs and everywhere in between. And I've really come to appreciate that personal responsibility absolutely matters, but not
Yes.
everybody has the same opportunities
Yes.
or they don't face the same obstacles. We're all different. Our backgrounds are different. And the things that work for me might not work for the guy a few miles up the road, right? That realization really hasn't made me pessimistic, though. It's made me think a lot. It's made me hopeful, though, because of what I see and what we've developed and things that are going on right now is that when we pull together and we do it right, we can create those opportunities for those people. It's the leadership here to me isn't about proving that we're right. It's about listening to what's going on. Let my experience and not the textbooks I've read shape my perceptions and be willing and be able to evolve and adapt to changing circumstances. And it begins when you're willing to let those experiences change those assumptions. And one thing all these different roles taught me, I guess, the best impact, excuse me, I'm sorry. The best impact we can have isn't through what we just accomplished by ourselves, but is what we do to create those opportunities for people that really resonate.
Beautifully stated. All right, I'm going to ask you the ultimate question then. So, what does maximizing excellence personally mean to you?
When it's all said and done, I don't really care if people remember me for the parts I made, or programs I worked with, organizations. I want to be known as somebody who came to an organization or who worked with somebody and helped somebody grow, mentored somebody, and made that organization or that community stronger. And we maximize the excellence in there by how? By listening to people, by looking at different viewpoints. I teach my students, or I tell my students a lot of times when we're out there on the shop floor and I'm showing them something on a machine, I say, I'm a big fan of saying what happens when I hit this button. But I like to do it under controlled circumstances, right? I'll slow down my feed rates. I'll make sure I know what's going to happen, or I have a pretty good idea at least of what's going to happen before then. And when you take things like that, that curiosity, right?
Yes.
It's a big thing. I read something recently that says, as we grow older and we become expert in our fields, we find our minds tend to dull a little bit. And part of the reason for that, apparently, I don't know how true this is. I just read this like 2 days ago, is that because we're expert, the answers start coming to us easier. That there's a regression in our learning process. And
Yes.
one of the things I think that's important is you want to maximize your excellence. You want to stay on top of your game for your whole life. You always have to be curious. Always read. Always learn. Always try to pick up something different. Always listen to the viewpoint of that person you say is an idiot. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. I think if you keep asking questions over the course of your lifetime consistently, then excellence isn't really something you achieve once. It becomes a way you live, a legacy that you kind of leave behind. I want to leave you with one number: 57. 57 people that a year ago, they've gone through programs and training that I have taught that have been worked up by the K-Fear Manufacturing Partnership. And those 57 people who now have jobs in machine shops, manufacturing facilities as engineers, programmers, machine operators, setup men and women that didn't have those jobs a year ago. 57 families that have been impacted by the things we've done at JSF Industrial and the Manufacturing Partnership, other workforce development boards that now have fulfilling careers, that now have careers, not jobs. The average machinist here with a couple of years' experience in the Cape Fear area makes upwards of $90,000 a year. That's pretty good living. Talk to some of your students over at UNCW and some of the places like that, and ask if they take that 3 years after they got out of school. And I'll bet you universally what you know the answers.
Excellent. Excellent. May I leave you with one question? And you don't
Sure.
have to answer it. Maybe this is what you want to respond when this gets out there. Are we developing human capability at the same pace that we're developing technical capability?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think our technology has ramped up exponentially.
Yes.
Think about the things, the way of life 200 years ago,
Yes.
right? Mentioned Thomas Jefferson. Back in his time, people drove on a horse and buggy. That was your mode of transportation. 1,000 years before him, that was the mode of transportation. 1,000 years before that, that was the mode of transportation. Now we're talking about having shuttles run on a regular basis to the moon. We're talking about interstellar travel. The things that we're doing with artificial intelligence and robotics and everything are just amazing. And we're not making a progression like this. We're making a progression like this. Technology is advancing far faster than we have the capabilities to keep up with, I think. And it's going to be a big challenge in the years ahead. But I do think that if we continue to invest in that human capital, that we'll get there. The technology has got to be controlled by us, right? We're the ones who dictate where it goes. So we're the ones who have to learn how to harness that and take advantage of all its capabilities. And I think if we can do that and do it right, the sky's the limit.
Well, I will share with you, and I'm going to show a piece of media here. This is something, Jim, that we are working on here at Harris Whitesell Consulting, and that's human capability. And we're looking at it from the perspective of strategy, leaderships, and skills and impact. Those capabilities around strategy and advisory, leadership and professional development, curriculum and learning solutions. So, this workforce strategy for us is very specifically designed towards developing leaders at all levels, and even knowing that some of these leaders at various levels will always stay in the technical aspect of their job, maybe throughout their career till very late, and then they merge into a leadership role, a formal leadership title role in the organization. But we truly have learned, and it is scientifically proven, that we do need to focus on some of these behavioral aspects and components of people, human capability in the workplace, and allow that to complement the technicality and the tactical side of what people do in the workplace and how they do what they do in the workplace and why they do what they do in the workplace as well. So here at Harris Whitesell Consulting, we are excited to offer this opportunity and couldn't be more honored to be doing this out there in the world of work these days. So I just wanted to put that plug in there and give us the opportunity to see that. And I'm trying to figure out, pardon me, I don't know why technically I'm not able to get this thing to go down. But I do want to end this and just say thank you, Jim, for joining us today on Maximize Excellence. This dialogue was deep and rich, and your voice is strong and meaningful and purposeful for so many throughout our region, throughout North Carolina, and abroad. I would even say that throughout the United States and around the world, we're all seeing this workforce challenge, and this retention challenge is real. It is absolutely real. And so your level of excellence, your level of expertise, and I will even say the wisdom that you bring from your experiences and your leadership are superior. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Lori, I appreciate you. I couldn't agree more with a lot of what you said over there. I really just want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I really think that, I mean, you're one of those organizations that I talk about that are partnering with us. This philosophy, these things that you're proposing and promoting right here, they align exactly with what we. I love it. I really think that, like I said, thank you again. Manufacturing has given me opportunity. It's given me a great career, but it's also introduced me to remarkable people, and that's the best part about what I get to do and stuff. And it's taken a long time to mature into this role. You talk about leadership and everything. Like I said, 50 years ago, I was just a stupid kid. This is all pretty recent development, but I love it.
I'm with
I
you.
like the direction everything's going.
I love this. Thank you. So, everyone, if you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe on YouTube, share it with your network, and join us again for another inspiring discussion with leaders who are shaping the future. And remember, excellence isn't a destination, it's a decision we make every day that grows and evolves. I'm Lori Harris. Until next time, keep maximizing excellence.